Welcome to One-on-One with Walt Laskos. In this brief podcast, you'll learn how to most effectively address senior financial exploitation. Now, here's Walt.
On December 1st, 2025, the Federal Trade Commission issued a report titled Protecting Older Consumers. In its content, we learn how this year's publication highlights the dramatic increase in older adults' reported aggregate fraud losses, which have skyrocketed from about $600 million in 2020 to $2.4 billion in 2024. The increase was largely driven by reports of losses over $100,000, often to investment scams, romance scams, or impersonations. As many frauds go unreported, the overall cost of fraud to older adults in 2024 is estimated to be between $10.1 billion and, get this, $81.5 billion, depending upon methodology. Well, joining me today to share more details on the report is Lois Greisman, Associate Director, Bureau of Consumer Protection at the Federal Trade Commission. Lois heads the Division of Marketing Practices in the FTC's Bureau of Consumer Protection, where she directs the agency's fraud program. Under her management, the Marketing Practices leads the FTC's law enforcement initiatives tackling telemarketing fraud, fraudulent business and investment opportunity schemes, illegal spam, and internet fraud. Lois also directs the FTC's work to curb fraud in connection with different methods of payment, such as credit cards and ACH debits, and she has also served as the FTC's Elder Justice Coordinator since 2018. Lois, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Walt. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, let's begin our discussion, Lois, with a focus on the FTC's Protecting Older Consumers report and what it found to be among the top frauds and scams impacting older adults in 2024.
Well, Walt, as you mentioned, the trajectory is not good. We're seeing increased harm across the board impacting older adults. So the top scams, investment scams, and business and government impersonation scams, those are the top frauds that are causing the greatest aggregate losses.
And are you finding aggregate losses to fraud still increasing? And if so, what do you see as driving that trend?
Those aggregate losses are indeed still increasing, and what's driving it, certain types of frauds. These are the investment scams where somebody promises, I've got the key to success. I know the secret sauce, whether it's investment in foreign currency, in precious metals, in cryptocurrency, you name it. They know how to help you invest your money, get a tremendous return on investment. The other drivers are the broad category of impersonation scams. And this is impersonation of government. Think of the Social Security Administration, the FBI. FTC is now commonly impersonated. Or impersonation of businesses, banks, Microsoft, every type of financial institution, the sheriff's office, you name it. And what we're seeing is increased sophistication in those impersonation scams and really what I call a blending of the business and government impersonation. So, for example, you'll get a call purportedly maybe, or a text or an email from Amazon from your bank saying your account's been compromised. We've already been in touch with the FBI. This is extremely serious. Your exposure, you even have criminal exposure. Your account has now been associated with money laundering. I have an FBI agent on the line who is ready to speak with you about this. It's an entire scam, very sophisticated, very effective.
You know, and that you say that, Lois, there was an article not too long ago in the news about a lady who lost, oh my God, I think it was close to $500,000, believing that she was partnering with an FBI agent in preventing a scam and going against the work of these criminal elite. And it turned out to be a whole scam. And here she is all along believing she's doing good and she's helping, and they were just taking her money from her.
That's not uncommon, unfortunately, Walt. I mean, we see scammers talk about, there are three strong lies that resonate. First, someone's using your account. Second, your information is being used to commit a crime. You're in real trouble. And third, there's a security problem with your computer. That's what we call the technical support types of scams. What we're seeing, Walt, that I also want to flag is these enormous aggregate losses. We look at, and this is in the report, what are the top payment methods that scammers prefer and demand? And it's bank payment and transfers, and also payment by cryptocurrency. Those are the top methods of payment that we're seeing driving those huge aggregate losses.
If there's something critical that credit union executives should know about these large dollar loss reports, what might you say they should be paying really attention to?
Well, the credit unions really are in a unique position in that their relationship with their members is probably stronger than other types of financial institutions. So I think it's critical for the unions to be aware of the types of scams that I've just described. The impersonation scams, the investment scams, also the romance scams, which I've not mentioned, but really they're just a type of impersonation scam. So I think the unions need to be very much aware of that, very much aware that where there are huge losses, they're involving what we characterize as bank transfers, but the transfer may be from any type of financial information. Our report is just not that granular, but I think that's really important to flag for the unions.
And one of the things that I constantly advocate to them, and be curious to hear your thoughts on this, Lois, is that also when you look at credit unions or as banks as well, there's constantly turnover too with the teller lines or managers, the whole bit. So because they might do training, in January, doesn't mean that, well, it's all said and done. We don't have to worry about it again for another 2-3 years, because with that constant changeover of staff and all, it seems like this is something that needs to be ongoing if the credit union or the bank is really going to make an effort to kind of mitigate those kind of scams and fraud.
Absolutely agree with you, Walt. I mean, training of the frontline people, the tellers who are dealing with members, is critical, but it is a challenge because you're going to have turnover. But think about the back end, the systems that are in place that flag unusual transfers, that flag unusual payments. I mean, the credit cards, I think everyone's familiar with how good their algorithms are to identify an unusual purchase or a purchase from an unusual location. I think banks, financial institutions also have that capability to flag those types of unusual transfers, even if the teller is not necessarily aware of it. The back end of the system should identify something. And then, it's not just training the frontline staff. I think financial institutions, including obviously the credit unions, it's really important to provide education to the members. And there are great resources out there, and I hope the credit unions will take advantage of those resources, the ones offered by the FTC in particular.
We're speaking with Lois Greisman, Associate Director of Bureau of Consumer Protection at the Federal Trade Commission. Lois, share with us some of those resources that credit unions and banks alike can access to help them better educate their staff, their members, and those within the communities they serve.
So there's any number of free resources. The one that I think is best suited for older adults is Pass It On. And this is available in both English and Spanish. And really, it is our signature education piece for active older adults. It provides critical information on every type of scam I've just mentioned, as well as any other number of scams, such as prize promotion scams, which we do see disproportionately hitting older adults. By hitting, I mean causing harm to older adults, as well as the technical support scam, which is the example of a pop-up on your screen purporting to be from Microsoft saying your computer is infected. Dial this number and we will assist you. A complete scam. There are other resources out there. We have what's called consumer alerts. You can sign up for them and periodically receive them. I'll provide separately the sign-up information for that and also how to obtain Pass It On.
one thing before we kind of wrap, Lois, I think would be, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. When you look at the report, and you've been, a leader in this regard for years now, what jumped out at you and maybe surprised you the most when you saw the data that came back in that report? Because I know, like for me, when I'm seeing like the amount of estimated losses, because a lot of folks don't report those losses. I mean, my God, it's skyrocketing like crazy. What did you see that really whoa, made you stop in your tracks?
What I saw is that for the first time, social media is the number one contact method in terms of the aggregate losses and the number of reports. It doesn't surprise me. And in a sense, it was almost inevitable, but it does jump out. But still at the same time, and it's not a good thing, but when we look at the highest individual median losses for older adults, those are scams that still start with a phone call. I mean, as I look at this report over the years and in the work I've done, that the numbers increased in terms of overall loss, that doesn't surprise me. What does encourage me is what we hear, and it's often anecdotally because it's very hard to measure, how important education is, both in terms of stopping the scam from happening in the first place, and also from the business side in taking proactive steps vis-a-vis their members, and also looking at and also doing their own outreach to consumers to do the education. Information really is critical. And Walt, something like this podcast is a tremendous opportunity for me, and I think for you as well, to inform the listeners. If you've heard that something is a type of scam, for example, that somebody will call you out of the blue and say your account's compromised. I've got the FBI on the line, let me help you. If you've heard that is a type of scam, we know from research, you are less likely to fall for that scam. And that's vital information.
Exactly. And finally, Lois, if a listener wishes to learn more about the report and the FTC, how might they do so?
Go to ftc.gov. There's a wealth of information there, and I can provide the specific site at a later time, Walt. But I also encourage your listeners, if they see something that they think is a scam, and certainly if they have lost money to a scammer, it's important that they report it to the FTC. And they can do that at ReportFraud.ftc.gov. Those types of report are invaluable to our strategic planning, to our law enforcement work, to our work with state and federal partners. It tells us what's happening out there. And we rely on that information. We cannot do one-on-one assistance, but I assure you that reports make a difference.
Thank you, Lois. And in addition to those websites, I've also included a few links to additional resources addressing financial scams and fraud in the notes that will accompany the podcast. Lois Greisman, thank you again for giving us your time today to shed more light on the FTC's Protecting Older Consumers report.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And I'm Walt Lascos. Thank you for listening.
If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow One-on-One with Walt Lascos wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to send comments to walt@lascoscommunications.com. And to learn more about how you might support the prevention of elder financial scams, visit lascoscommunications.com.